How many Shockey jerseys do you own? I just
0, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why he's
you
on,
can stay.
folks.
Yeah, all right.
That's why he's on. This is Normal Men, a podcast from 4 men who are clinging desperately to normalcy in an era when that's asking a bit too much. I'm George in Charlotte.
In DC, I'm Propter Malone.
In outer Florida, I'm low-tax speedrun enjoyer.
And I'm Ed in Boston.
Folks, that new voice you hear is Mike Sachs. Mike Sachs is running for Congress in the Democratic primary in New York's 17th Congressional District. We're having him on this week to talk about his background and that race and what he thinks of the landscape right now. So, Mike, welcome to Normal Men.
Thank you, Normal Men, for having me on your very esteemed podcast. I can see what people listening cannot see, and I'm seeing a bunch of normal men right now in front of me on my computer screen.
Yeah.
See,
It's both aspirational and factual that we are normal.
So, unfortunately, I made a mistake when promising that we weren't talking about college football today because low-tax immediately went to the NFL. Listening and learning.
Yeah. Football comes for us all at this time of the calendar. So,
Actually, that's a good question. So, Mike, you're running in New York's 17th district.
Yes.
Giants, Jets, or Bills in this region?
I like to say my greatest political liability, if I'm so lucky, is that I'm raising my children.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Internet's bad,
Unfortunate
folks.
cliffhanger.
That was a really good time.
Yeah. All right. We've established that Mike Sachs is raising his children. That's exciting.
yeah, that's good to know.
Is he going to say Eagles? He can't say Eagles.
No, not Panthers.
I can riff on Eagles.
So the really weird thing is we're going to have to explain you, Propter.
What do you mean we're going to have to explain? Never.
The fact that we have 2 special guests on.
I guess maybe we should talk about that a little bit. Can I talk a little bit about what do I sound like right now?
It's hard to describe. I like it better, but you're slightly higher pitched, but still like you've got that gravel going on. It's like it would be like a really good barbecue sauce ad voice.
All right. Okay. So
It would. Yes. That's a good call. By the way, I like that Ed and I are holding up cold Celtic guys very strongly here with our hats and our red flannel shirts.
It's true. We both have the red and black flannel.
Yeah. Maple Syrup Ass Podcast.
I wonder if we can put you through some sort of filter to make the voice change a little less jarring. Because, oh man, it really is
we
cooking.
need to do, no. We need to do that to the regular voice.
I think people are going to really complain that Propter's always the one that people are like, yeah, I can tell Propter apart, but the rest of you are so nasal, like it all sounds the same. Now we all sound identical.
You can still tell Propter apart. He's still very distinctive.
You can tell Propter apart. Propter,
Welcome back.
Propter sounds like Scott Stapp.
Man voice.
Yeah. And now he sounds like a grunge singer.
What happened before was truly that we're having a snowstorm here in the lower Hudson Valley, and I believe that's what just knocked out the Wi-Fi. So now I'm on a hotspot to my phone, which doesn't have great reception, so we'll see how this goes.
Okay, Mike. So you're running in New York's fighting 17th. So Giants, Jets, or Bills?
I like to say that should I be so lucky, my greatest political liability in this race is that I'm raising my children Eagles fans.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I grew up outside I grew up outside Philadelphia. I've lived in this area of New York since 2018. I haven't lived in Pennsylvania since I was 17. My family's all still there, but I place a very high priority on loyalty to where you came from and to your neighbors where you currently are. For me, that means, yes, serving the great people of the District of New York 17 as hard as I can, but also knowing that I am an honest and loyal man and I cannot abandon Philadelphia sports.
Well, I can respect the integrity even as I abhor the taste.
Yeah, no, it's been hard this season because one of my children is really diehard and he's seeing flashbacks of 2 years ago with the great collapse between the Super Bowls. So I told him if that happens this time, then it just means we'll make the Super Bowl next season. But both my children insist on wearing Philadelphia gear because I so trained them in such a way before I ran for office, now that I'm running for office. Luckily, I don't really include them in much campaign stuff given the current political environment. So the photos of me in which they're always wearing Philadelphia jerseys aren't out that much in campaign literature. But I'm not hiding it. It's not something that I'm not proud of. It's something that I think we could all say, hey, fuck the Cowboys.
God bless.
I completely agree with that. Although your comment that, oh, the Eagles, we had the drought between the Super Bowls. As someone, I am a Dolphins fan. I grew up in South Florida, and I'm so mad at that because it's been 52 years since we won a Super Bowl. I get you, man. And again, my very identity as an 80s and 90s kid and growing up in outside Philadelphia is to a losing team. You know, we had the 93 Phils that were amazing, but they're fueled on hot dogs and steroids and beer.
Right.
And it was awful for me to see the Blue Jays make the World Series again this season because I knew I would be seeing on repeat Joe Carter's home run on Mitch Williams. So I just tried to tune that one out. But you mentioned the Dolphins, and I'm not sure how old all you guys are. You look generally my vintage or much younger. And I would play Madden 93 when I was a kid, where you could play any team from any time of history. And the 72 Dolphins was my team, and I would only run the ball with Zonka. That's it. That's all I would do. And I would win all the time.
Fullback dive. All right. So tell us a little bit about New York 17. You're speaking to hopefully a few future voters, but most of the people who listen to this podcast are not from Rockland County.
Yeah. So New York 17 is all of Rockland County, the northern half of Westchester, where I live, all of Putnam County, which is just above Westchester, and then a sliver of Southern Dutchess as well. It's a purple district, insofar as it is one of the 3 districts in this country that voted for Harris in 2024, but went with a Republican congressperson at the same year. One of the others being where I've originally come from, outside Philadelphia, Bucks County, with Brian Fitzpatrick. But what Fitz knew that Lawler somehow didn't was to vote against the One Big Beautiful Bill. I think because Lawler is far more beholden to and in league with and chummy with President Trump than his fellow quasi-moderate compatriots. Lawler, we like to say here, plays moderate up here, but votes MAGA down there. And at every opportunity, he is side by side with Trump, showing his fealty. And I don't know why people think he's such a brilliant politician, because in this district, at this moment, if Lawler were to abandon Trump and he were to actually vote the way that he says he is, he would probably win in an instant, because this district has become a ticket-splitting district since the lines got redrawn in 2022. But he is now part of a ruling regime in which he never had to be in the past, as prior to elections in 2020 and 2022, his prior to elections in 2022 and 2024 were as part of the opposition. And he was able to position himself as a ticket-splitting favorite, as opposed to a person who is tied to the mast of a deeply unpopular political project. And really the deciding vote to advance that deeply unpopular political project that is dedicated to hurting people as opposed to helping people. And Lawler's ploy up here is to pick all of our pockets, put pennies back in the pockets, and say, look how much I'm helping you. Please clap. And it's really upsetting to those of us in this district that simply don't like being lied to.
So in terms of the, I guess, geography of the district, I have family in Katona, which is the way I was describing it earlier, and with all love to the people of Katona, it's like NIMBY libbed out, like the most NIMBY lib people you can imagine. Just every single yard sign is, a pride sign or some sort of anti-Trump message or whatever. It's very low density and a lot of bedroom community type commuters into the city, that sort of thing. I know a lot of the rest of Western Westchester and the Hudson Valley is like that, but there's definitely places that aren't, like, for instance, Rockland County. So can you kind of give us a layout of like the political geography? Because, just from a top level perspective, if you're talking about a district that voted for Harris and that's held by a congressional Republican, that's an easy pickup target. It was a relatively narrow race in general, and you would sort of expect, given where congressional Dems are polling at large, that should be a pretty easy pickup. So are there any wrinkles from the political geography in the district that sort of make it stand out?
I'll take exception with your description of Katona.
Well, good.
The NIMBY description, I think, is starting to fade, not just in Katona, but at least throughout Westchester. I live in a town called Croton-on-Hudson, and yes, the building and development, especially for affordable housing, has become a flashpoint in this part of the district. But those who want more affordable housing in their towns, those who want to ensure that their children can grow up in the same towns those who want to ensure their children can return to the same towns they grew up and afford it, those who want more diversity in their towns to reflect the yard signs that they have in their front yards, are moving towards a policy of pro building. And that also is consistent with making this area more affordable. Now, Westchester is the bright blue segment of what is in the aggregate a purple district. Rockland has become pretty red. Putnam is redder, and Dutchess is as red. So in the aggregate, this district is purple, but it's quite distinct in the political identities of each area. When I say over in Rockland, that's on the other side of the Hudson River. And one of the other major political considerations is the Hasidic voting bloc in Rockland County as well, which has been over the past couple election cycles all in for Trump and mostly are all in for Lawler, even while they remained all in for Democrats who they voted for before Trump came to power. So
we were going to bring that up if you didn't. I think that's a really interesting voting block, particularly in light of the BBB.
Yeah, for sure. With Medicaid slashing and whether that will impact them before the midterm election, and whether there's been an exemption for them written into the bill. But yeah, it's part of the political reality here.
Yeah.
So
the district is what? It's a little less than 1/6 Hasidic at this point.
The voting block is like 30,000 now. Yeah.
You've got both a really, really high voting rate and also kind of an age distribution that may take down their vote share a little bit. I'm not sure how that maths out in terms of actual expected votes, but this is a powerful constituency, and they turn out to vote with clockwork regularity. They're very impressive that way. Is this something that you think is lost to Team Blue in New York 17, or is this still a constituency that you do outreach to? Is this something that you expect to play in the primary at all, or is this only a GE concern?
It's both. So no voters ever lost that cannot be the consideration, especially in this district. There will be voters who are the through and through diehard MAGA voters, and I would say those are the ones that are more difficult to get to. But as we're seeing now with Trump's popularity going further and further down, and you're going to see fissures in the MAGA coalition that may be open to positions that Democrats adopt that are more populist, that Trump was able to co-opt in 2016 and 2024. But really, it's a turnout play this election, and we're not going to leave any votes on the table. But with the block vote, I don't think a Democrat's going to get the majority of the block vote, right? But I do think there will be an opportunity to get some of the block vote, and any votes that we can win through persuasion, through relationships, are votes that go towards our winning the general election. Now, I also am of the mind that when Trump is in power, people hate him and hate his enablers. We had proof points of that in 2017, 2018, 2020, and another proof point emerging with the special elections in the state and local elections this past November and a couple weeks ago. So those things together don't mean that Democrats can coast towards a Trump backlash, but they do point very strongly towards a blue wave in which voters can pick their wave rider. For this district, it's, I think, a matter of people picking who they want to represent them in Congress, who's coming with the right policy proposals that can turn the page not only on Trumpism, but I think what I call on zombie Reaganism, on this stasis we've been operating, the status quo we've had because of Republican manufactured gridlock emerging since Gingrich, where we are unable to get ourselves past this small aperture of what is possible for policy, so that we cannot really help all the people all at once. And then we are stuck in this place where artificial division is sown, so that we're punching at each other as opposed to punching up at those who are extracting our wealth. All for the Republican agenda to get themselves back in power every single time they're thrown out because people hate. My main focus in this primary is to put forward a aggressive and optimistic policy agenda that's full of big swings to help everyone, as opposed to just, some people, and as opposed to hurt people like Trump does. So that then we can also turn our eyes towards what's necessary to actually enact those policies. And that will require the type of structural change to get us out of this zombie Reaganism and have a federal government that is capable of and is willing to pass any laws, let alone big swing laws, and then get it past Supreme Court review that was constructed as the final boss should our democracy actually function as it's been designed. So a follow-up comment and a follow-up question. I just looked up Proctor-on-Hudson. That name is too British. Like it has hyphens in it.
Low-tax, we agreed that I wouldn't have to bleep anything in this episode.
Listen, I'm as anti-monarchist and pro-America as anyone can get. I kind of believe Meghan Markle's a plant to blow up the British royal family, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Laudatory.
But that's right.
But at the same time, I think Proctor-on-Hudson is a beautiful name for a beautiful town, which is exactly descriptive of what exactly this town is. It resides on the Hudson. It's truer. It's more honest in its description than many other riverside communities that are also beautiful and wonderful and that I hope to represent.
I do appreciate that it's Proctor-on-Hudson and not Proctor-upon.
Right. This isn't Avon.
Like,
we're talking America here.
We're all such nerds.
Okay, so my follow-up question is, what do you think is the most important issue for Democrats at the federal level to address right now? As a positive policy to implement in the coming years, what do you think is most important?
Universal health care. Period. That's it. To me, that's ball game. If we're talking affordability and we're talking autocracy, then that is the shot that makes our lives more affordable while getting rid of a giant source of plutocracy in this country. It is a way for all of us, every single American, to share in the benefits of a single policy such that those who seek to divide us cannot say /Medicaid and then say, oh, well, that doesn't affect you. That affects them. That affects the people who don't need it. Or even worse, the people who don't deserve it are exploiting it and creating waste, fraud, and abuse. So we're here to help you, the deserving people who otherwise do have it. And it also gets rid of what we're having right now is this fight over subsidies. You know, I can do an Allen Iverson impression. We're talking subsidies right now, which are still, there still are tax dollars going to insurance companies so that they can offer us somewhat more affordable health care, which is still too much for most of us who are on the exchanges. And it also allows everyday people to take risks towards the American dream and start their own businesses and step away from jobs that they might love and learn from or they might hate so they can create that entrepreneurial spark and not worry about losing their or their family's healthcare in doing so.
Let's dig in on that a little bit. When you say universal healthcare, do you mean a single payer system? Do you mean a single provider system? Are we talking something like NHS in the UK?
Well, I thought we were talking about how much we're not Anglophiles here, but okay.
Get him, Mike.
Well, unfortunately, I can't because, yes, I'm talking something like the NHS in the UK. But I also understand there are many different ways to go about doing it. But no, Medicare for All is what's on the table right now. It's what's been thought out most. It has the greatest amount of political momentum in this country at this time. And I think it is the one that is most possible because we already have a system in which there are segments of our population that are receiving healthcare paid for by their tax dollars or all of our tax dollars, where it's going directly to our healthcare, in which its recipients are broadly happy with the care they receive. Whether it's Medicare or Medicaid, which has high satisfaction ratings, or the VA system, all of this, right? We have the infrastructure in place. And there are ways to expand it to make our healthcare universal that goes beyond what the ACA tried and the Supreme Court killed with the Medicaid expansion. In ways that we don't have to jury rig the way that everyone's covered, and we can just have a simplistic, sensical, non-insane system that can help everybody. And then in doing so, puts us all in it together so that when Republicans, if they are so stupid, try to defund or slash that program for all of us, we will all have our pitchforks out. There's something I like to say that, when Republicans are in power, they hurt people, they tank the economy, and then they distort our democracy to preserve their power because hurting people and tanking the economy is unpopular. If you look at the New Deal, Social Security, the Great Society, Medicare, Medicaid, Fair Housing Act, Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, even Obamacare. These are popular policies. Progressive policies are popular, and they are repealed at the political peril of their electoral opponents. Let me say it again. Progressive policies are popular, and they are repealed Progressive policies are popular, and they are repealed at the electoral peril of their political opponents. Truly. And what do they do then? What do those opponents do then? They rig our democratic system of representative democracy, or they lean on the existing anti-democratic structures of it. So they go for extreme partisan gerrymandering to distort the House and state houses. They rely on the Electoral College, or at least they thought they only could until 2024 with Trump, but I would posit that was fluke of an election that we should not learn anything from. And they rely on the Senate's inherent malapportionment, and then when that doesn't serve them, they rely on the Senate filibuster for a minority to kill in the cradle every big swing policy that Democrats could put forward that would help people, not hurt people, and hurt Republicans and keep their plutocratic agenda at bay. And failing all of that, that's why they captured the Supreme Court as the final boss and veto point for what the people want in this country. So anything we can do, any big swings we are promising, are not only promises to help people, but also galvanizing points so people can come forward and say, this is what we want and this is what we need to do once we get a trifecta in order to make these laws stick. It's not only a policy agenda, but a structural agenda.
So this is about Supreme Court reform is where we're headed with this.
It's the final boss. The final boss. And there's two ways we can get to Supreme Court reform. There's building towards a trifecta that will do it immediately, but that will require the Supreme Court to continue wilding out the way it has been, which it will, and our campaigning in 2 or 3 successive elections so that the public understands what's coming when we get a trifecta and they're all for it. Absent that, if people at that point still need proof that this Supreme Court is the final boss against we the people getting our say and our will, then the very agenda we put forward on January 3rd, 2027, I like to call it our own one big beautiful bill, right? Of every big swing we can do, put it all in one omnibus package, pass it, send it to the Senate, have the Senate kill it, point to the Senate and say, oh, those guys, you know why they killed it? And then point to the oversight hearings we'll have been holding, which are going to be hauling in every single bad guy of the Trump era, from the plutocrats, the criminals, to the corrupt, to the incompetents, to the cronies, to the influencers, the grifters. Put them all on camera. Yeah.
Hell yes.
Right?
Hell yes.
Monday through Friday. Have a whole on primetime slate that then could be clipped out and put on the socials and everything.
Dude, you're going to be working weekends.
I know. And we can do this for 2 straight years, man.
That's true.
Every single day. 2 straight years. Every single day. Make a show of it. And connect those people to the Senate, saying that's who the Senate is either serving or was bought by to prevent us from getting our way. Run on that in 2028. Ensure J.D. Vance is on notice that we're watching come January 6, 2029, should he refuse to open up the Electoral College envelopes. If he were to lose the Electoral College, which, frankly, he would refuse to do so.
We've seen J.D. Vance talk. We know.
Yes, boss. And, sorry, I don't know if you guys watched the latest season of South Park. But, okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, George has. Oh, is South Park, side note, is South Park a Duke guy
No,
thing?
it's an everyone thing, man.
No, I don't think so.
The sample size is working against you here.
Some selection effects, maybe, but it's.
I am a bit of a discursive speaker, so I'm relying on your editing abilities here. But when South Park first came out, I was a sophomore in high school, and I'm a big Primus fan. That was my entree into
There you go.
being a quasi-musician. I saw My Name is Mud on Alternative Nation when I was 11 and thought I need to do that, and then plastered my bedroom walls in Primus posters and got a bass when I was 12, and I was off to the races. And because I was a huge Primus fan, I knew that they were writing the theme song for South Park. And that's how I first found out about South Park. So I was ready there with VHS in the VHS machine with my finger ready to hit record on the first night of the South Park debut on Comedy Central. So then I could hit record to stop it at each commercial. And I have some VHS somewhere of the entire first season of South Park, commercial free, recorded in real time, like a good
Incredible.
elder millennial. So
that's a level I'm not on.
But back to Supreme Court reform, fellas.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. I derailed us a bit there.
But so the other way is to make every single policy we pass a fastball straight at the Supreme Court's head. So that when we achieve a trifecta on the basis of our policy agenda that we will be pushing from the moment we start the 120th Congress in the House, we will then pass that policy agenda as a dare, a open dare. Not a tacit one, but an open dare to say, Supreme Court, what are you going to do about this now? Oh, right, you struck down assault weapons bans in summer 2027 around the states. Well, we're going to pass a federal one. We know it's covered by your precedent in whatever case that will be coming up the next year and a half. But what are you going to do? Oh, here's the new Voting Rights Act. Right? You presage that you think that's beyond Congress's power to do because you're looking to restrict Congress's power so you can hold power yourselves. What are you going to do? Oh, here is a codification of Roe, if not something even stronger than Roe. What are you going to do? Here's Medicare for all. We're using the taxing power. Are you really going to cut back on the taxing power like you said you couldn't, Chief Justice Roberts, in the Obamacare cases? Here's comprehensive immigration reform that gives us a more humane system as opposed to one that is again designed to, or has been atrophied to hurt people. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Every single piece of policy so that these guys, either the Roberts Court either stands down and says, okay, we get you, like the Supreme Court in 1937, or they say, oh, let's play. And they will further attack the Reconstruction Amendment's grants of broad power towards Congress. They will further restrict Congress's grant of broad power through Article 1 of the Constitution. And then it's on. Because we'll have spent, by then, 2 or 3 election cycles pointing at the Roberts Court saying, these people are getting in our way.
So I think this all appeals very much to the attitude that the four of us have around electoral politics in this environment and what Democrats should be focusing on, and the energy of fighting that I think a lot of Democrats, maybe not a lot, but some nationally prominent Democrats seem to lack a little bit. So we're on board with all that. I'm curious how you see this resonating as a primary strategy, because you have a pretty crowded primary to fight through. I think there are 6 other candidates that are declared. 3 of them have raised over $1 million. I mean, this is a very hotly contested primary. And I'm curious how you see this message resonating with primary voters who, Democrats tend not to do the Republican thing of voting for the most extreme candidate. And I'm not trying to say you're extreme, but you got some fight in you, and that's unusual for a Democratic primary. So I'm curious, like if the current environment is seeing more resonance for this kind of rhetoric and this approach to unelected official strategy, or if it's something that it's too early to tell, or how you see that playing out.
You get all kinds in this district. I have people, when I talk, they get really excited about what they're hearing, policy-wise, structural-wise. You have people who say, I'm not hearing a bipartisan thing come out of your mouth. I say, no, it is bipartisan, but they're going to have to work with us. Because for too long, bipartisan has been coded towards playing on Republicans' turf, while they are, take the ball and go home nihilistic reactionaries at the federal level. And then you have people who, are want to stay with sort of the incremental steps because of the definition of moderate, which I think is no longer a fair descriptor in this political moment. I would love nothing more than to have a political system in which our policies reflected a compromise between 2 parties looking to serve the people through their various big tent ideologies that make up each of their interests. I would love that. But right now, we have one party that in various ways is looking to help people, and another party, in all of its ways, that is trying to hurt people. One party that treats politics as a way to deliver the greatest good for the greatest amount of people, and one party that looks at politics like a game, just to serve those who bankroll it. And it's funny, I didn't always think this. this is something that came from my career as a political and legal reporter, watching with a front row seat, quite literally at times, like when I was first in line, having camped out in front of the Supreme Court while in law school to see the Citizens United re-argument, where we knew all what was going to happen at the end of it, to someone who was on air during January 6th, describing for my audience in New York what I was seeing on the feeds come up from DC and calling it exactly what it was. And watching all in between how the Republican Party was becoming more and more in thrall to corporate and plutocratic interests than it had ever been, because it was recognizing that its electoral viability was diminishing and it was unwilling to change with the times because it was so committed to, again, the zombie Reaganism, and got so lucky with Trump as a sort of supernova apotheosis of that very cruelty that animated an underlying id of Nixon, Reagan, and George W. Bush, that they had this person who was able to suspend political gravity for as long as he could and as long as he still can. But that political gravity is coming down. That's going to fall apart. And what's going to leave with it is a vacuum of people who are eager, an American electorate that desires a government that's looking to help them, someone that's looking to make their cost of living more affordable, someone that's willing to have a less cruel and chaotic way of going about delivering for the American public. And that is an opportunity for us as Democrats or as progressives or as moderates, as whatever, to create a new political reality a la Reconstruction and what came out of the Great Depression. You know, those are cataclysms I hope we never have to experience with the Civil War and with the Great Depression. But I think the assault on our democracy and the chaos that Trump exacts on, I mean, exacting is the wrong word for chaos, but the chaos that Trump reaps upon the American public will allow us to take these big swings that I don't think will be coded as necessarily moderate or progressive, but rather as just looking to help as many people as possible so that we can all be in this project together and be a more prosperous, safer, freer, happier, healthier country for us and our children.
I want to just note for the record that now I'm not the only person to use the word apotheosis on this podcast.
Did I even use it right?
Yes, you did. I want to touch on the primary a little more because it is a crowded. For background, I live in the great state of Massachusetts, which means I don't really think the rest of you have politics. So I'm coming to this late. This is a primary full of people who seem to have pretty wide-ranging stances on stuff, and a couple of interesting folks, one who apparently switched to the party just before declaring. What's the competitive advantage that you're feeling in this race relative to the rest of the field?
George, I did not mean to avoid that question. So thank you, Ed, for following that up.
None of us have ever stayed on topic here, ever. It would be unfair to make you do that.
So I bring to this race a unique insight, given that it was my job to follow and to cover every single part of this federal government that has been captured and broken by the right wing in this country. I saw how we got to this point. I know how to get us out of it. On top of that, my background as a Supreme Court expert, constitutional law person, and a media guy puts me at ground zero, puts me on the exact battlefield upon which this moment is being fought. So if you look at every other candidate in this primary, and they're all great people, like we're all in it for the right reasons. We've all become friends on the campaign trail. Whoever wins, we will all get behind. Like, no doubt. Each person represents sort of a different sliver of where we are as a country, what people want from this country. We have a county legislator, and she represents someone who's made government work on a bipartisan basis at the local level. We want to get back to that point. Wonderful. Is that something we should be doing on the federal level right now? Is trying to reach our hands across the aisle so that it'll get bitten off or slapped away again like it was throughout the Obama era, which only led to what? Trump? No. I would posit there's no one, virtually no one, at the national level on the Republican side that we can actually work with to achieve an agenda that will actually help the American public to the degree that it's demanding to be helped at this moment. And to the degree that they voted for Trump to help them, but not realizing that but just trusting that he is a liar is going to hurt everybody. There's a combat veteran. She's powerhouse. I think a lot of the national Democrats are very much in favor of her at this moment. And I'll name names. I'm not trying to be coy here. So, Beth Davidson, she is a Rockland County legislator, and she has a record of bipartisan achievement for gun control and environmental measures in that county. And she was the first one in the race. She has, she came out with a strong base of local Democratic support. But also, like, gun control, okay, sure, we pass a gun control law in the federal level. What's going to happen, my friends, when we pass a gun control law at the federal level, a gun safety bill at the federal level, assault weapons ban at the federal level? What's going to happen? Supreme Court buzzsaw. And you also have to nuke the filibuster to get there. So I have a hard time believing that local government experience, while salutary, and I think is something that's nice to have, is a requisite for this political moment. Then we have a combat veteran, Kate Conley. She's special ops. She's a powerhouse, badass. She's positioning herself more moderate, and she is like her message of what she's been able to do in her career is a strong one. Served in the Biden administration, comes from Biden world, national security world. She has a lot of support coming out of there. And the military aspect is a kind of a big deal right now with Trump offing people on the high seas, claiming that we're in a war, using zombie Reagan, zombie Nixon, and zombie Bush terms. These, crime, drugs, and terror.
Yeah, narco-terrorist is a hell of a word.
Right. They're putting it all together as if that talisman, magic word works again on the American public. And I don't think it's going to work again this time. But, so the national security angle, that's powerful. But it again flows back to the fight on the train of media in fighting Trump and the Constitution and courts, which are now the lines of defense until you get to the Supreme Court on these guys. You have a former FBI analyst, John Sullivan, also awesome guy, intelligence person. Yes, right? We're talking about the gutting of the FBI and the politicization of intelligence. But where did all those flow again? Back to courts, back to media. I can go on. We have an immigrant. We have Effie Phillips Staley, who's a wonderful, progressive trustee of the town of Tarrytown. And she is full on for immigrants' rights and for humanity and amazing. Where does that flow again, guys? Right? Media, courts, Constitution, structure of government. We can go each person. Peter Chatsky, he's an entrepreneur and local former deputy mayor former mayor of Briarcliff. He's awesome, big fan of his. He fought Trump multiple times on the golf course Trump was trying to build, and he beat Trump a few times. Singing their praises on purpose, because this is a good primary. But it all, again, flows back. If we want to have a working federal government that works with local government, we need to fight the fascists, not say, let's work together.
So I think it's fair to impute, based on what you just said, that you think we're going to get a good Democratic legislator out of NY-17.
Yes, it is very fair to impute that.
If we had a hypothetical Representative Sachs, where would you situate yourself within the current Democratic caucus?
I would attach myself to the hip of Jamie Raskin.
That's awesome. Raskin's a great guy.
And the other people in Congress who play the inside-outside game on not just policy, but structure. who are truly looking to rescue our democracy, looking to rescue our republic from a would-be autocrat and bring us towards a new reconstruction. That's a big swing. But I want to be with the people who are the visionaries. And that doesn't, again, mean only progressives, although the Congressional Progressive Caucus is one that I would caucus with. It can be anyone and everyone who recognizes that we can do big things. And that isn't something to be afraid of. It's only something historically in America that has been wildly popular and, again, is good power politics as well. It creates an entirely new political era in which Republicans, if they want to stay politically viable, will have to play on our terrain, our turf, be our Eisenhowers to our FDR. And that's a good place to be. It's a really good place to be. We can get there. And we need people. There already are plenty of people in Congress who want to get there. It's just a matter of having the majorities to do it.
This has been great, Mike. We really appreciate you coming on. Before you go, I have one more very important question for you about your district. What is your favorite deli and what is your order when you go?
Okay, so the bagel shop that my boys and I have long gone to, because that's sort of what it shifts to up here, is you go into your bagel shop up here. But I can get to deli when it comes to smoked fish as well. But bagel shop, the Bagel Emporium of Yorktown is a great one. They're all around the district, all around Westchester. And I'm a bacon, egg, and cheese on everything bagel guy. But if I'm going for full Jew, as I am, full disclosure, which I don't hide, and more than ever, we must not hide that. And especially as people like Mike Lawler try to exploit their philo-Semitism, which I think is just a flip coin of anti-Semitism, by aligning themselves with, the heirs of Yitzhak Rabin's assassin in Israel, calling that pro-Israel. We need people who can stand up and say, no, that is not. No, that is driving a country into the anti-democratic abyss that would actually be more ruinous to that country's future and existence than any Hamas raid or Iranian rocket. Okay, sorry, that was my discursive rant towards the current pro-Israel discourse. But where I go for my smoked fish for my Yom Kippur breakfast platters is at Mount Kisco Smokehouse in said Mount Kisco. And the people who own it are the Hurtados, and they are Colombian immigrants. They learned how to smoke fish in Brooklyn at some of the best appetizing shops in Brooklyn. It's the real deal. It's run by immigrants who serve the best belly locks and sable and kippered salmon that the Jewish community and everyone and all of our friends and allies in this in this district,
Smoked fish is for everyone,
have come to love for special occasions and otherwise. Well, it's not for everyone. My younger son, unfortunately, hates fish, and he's also allergic to salmon, which means that I become a sable devotee on the special occasions for my family.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of sable. Mike, thanks for joining us, man. Best of luck with the primary, and as that process rolls on, it was great to have you on, and you are definitely a certified normal man, I would say, after this conversation.
We've had a normal one, guys.
If you want to stick around to pipe in, you're welcome to, but we don't want to take any more of your time. We already had you for an hour this morning, so by all means, drop off.
I'm getting notes from my kids' friends' parents whose houses they slept over, and they're saying like they're busy shoveling the driveway. So I'm happy to stick around, but I won't talk nearly as much as I have this time. I apologize for monologuing during this time.
No, it's cool. You're the guest.
No, you're good, man.
You meant I had to talk less. It's great.
But I'll lurk, and if I have something to say, I'll.
There were 2 horrible shootings yesterday. For those of you who are hearing this sometime in the middle of the week and who have not tracked the news for the past several days, one at Brown and one at Bondi Beach in Australia. The motives for the Brown shooting are still kind of opaque, but the Bondi Beach was the anti-Semitic violence people shot up a candle lighting celebration for the first night of Hanukkah, and it seemed pretty clearly directed and intentional in terrorism against the Jewish community. This in a place that has much tighter gun restrictions than we do. So, some of the legislative levers that we would normally hope would solve this problem failed to solve this problem in Australia. That said, this is a game where we're trying to make things better on the margin, and Australia has a lot less of these than we do. So that's not to say that, the gun control restrictions aren't helping, but they didn't save, I believe the death tally is 10 right now.
You can only hope to reduce the frequency of mass casualty events. It's not realistic to expect it to be zero. And that's true whether it's involving guns or not, but it really is important to understand that this would happen a lot more frequently in Australia and any other country that had ubiquitous access to firearms, and we do in our country, and that's the reason it happens more here.
Shout out to the guy. There's a video out there of a guy tackling one of the shooters and disarming him.
A Muslim fruit stand vendor, Ahmed El Ahmed, father of two, straight up just tackles a guy with a rifle in his hands.
Absolute hero shit. Hero shit.
Yeah, he caught two in the arm a couple of minutes later too from the other shooter. Yeah. So hero who paid for it. Sounds like he's going to be okay.
And for all the division that here in America and around the world people try to sow between Jews and Muslims, this was an example of, in the worst possible scenario, unity of humanity and bravery.
Yep.
I woke up to this news today, and it was heartbreaking, especially coming after the Brown shootings. But one thing that we see in countries like Australia is when they have mass shootings and any kind of other mass casualty event, they take action to address it. And the sad thing about what we're going to have coming out of the shooting at Brown is the similar deja vu of thoughts and prayers we've had for so long in this country.
Yeah, nothing's going to change because of the Brown incident. I saw someone post like, oh, now the elite are finally being impacted. And it's like, dude, I'm sorry. No. Like, first off, elites had already been impacted by this. We just had a whole discourse last year about a United Healthcare CEO getting shot on the street, right? Like, the ubiquity of violence in this country does not exempt elites, and it never has. I mean, honestly, if you go back through American history, the elite has never been exempted. They have been insulated to a degree, but not exempted. And this Brown shooting doesn't change that.
We've had like 76 presidents shot.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know we've only had 47, but
I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but we've been doing this as state flagship schools for a long time. So I'm not sure, spreading that up to an Ivy is going to really make the difference as far as the accelerationist argument goes. As far as, if things get bad enough, then surely they'll have to do something.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's defeatism here. It would be great. It would be great if this was finally the straw that broke the camel's back, and we're going to get meaningful restrictions on weapons, and we're going to try to do some things to unfuck the seriously unhealthy culture we have around guns in large parts of this country. Maybe I'm being too cynical. I'm dubious.
A federal judge got shot. A federal judge's family got murdered. A sitting congressperson got shot on a softball field with a whole bunch of other sitting congressperson from someone of the political opposition. That would have been a good point for them to say, oh, well, now we can change tune. And then a guy showed up with a gun wandering around Brett Kavanaugh's curtilage. Law speak for house and area.
I didn't even hear about that one.
That one person is the one most agitating to tear down what remains of our state gun laws. So elites, whether they're affected or not, it's not about that. It's about ideology, and it's about anti-democratic structural reform.
100%. So our thoughts are obviously with all the victims, and we say that while saying the thing that will help prevent this in the future is not our thoughts or anyone's prayers or anything like that. It is concrete changes to the ability to access guns. And we cannot prevent every single mass casualty event, but we can prevent a lot of them. And so far, our country has refused to do that. So let's hope that we do move down the road towards dismantling the ideologically driven nonsense of the current Supreme Court's jurisprudence. And just as a reminder, a little bit of optimism around this, like something to keep in mind, I'd like to read a quote from a 1954 local media report of a junior rifleman ceremony of some kind. The commander of the Navy Reserve was in Salem, Oregon. And this is the report, just to sort of frame how fast things can change. They can change for the better as well. Many a Salem parent scurried for their reference books the other night after Commander Skinner of the Navy Reserve Armory, in awarding medals to junior riflemen, alluded to the Second Amendment to the Constitution. The commander caught them all flat-footed. Not a person in the audience responded when he asked if anyone knew what the amendment was. The tip-off, of course, was inherent in the meeting itself. The amendment reads, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." The very brevity of the amendment is its strength, and how many of us know the rest of the first 9 amendments which make up our Bill of Rights? They comprise, in toto, less than 500 words, hardly more than twice as long as that epic in history, the Gettysburg Address. So just keep in mind, 75 years ago, nobody had any idea what the Second Amendment was, really. And these are people that would probably bias towards it because they're involved with the military, and yet crickets. So things can change, and let's hope they do.
Sorry, this makes me so mad. I was in the Supreme Court room when Justice Scalia read out the Heller decision. I was there, and he just read that well-regulated militia part right out. This is a long-term project by bad faith actors claiming the mantle of original understanding. And it's done nothing but hurt and harm our contemporary American public.
All right, moving on to perhaps more happy subject matter.
We do need to take a detour because I realized we haven't explained the elephant in the room, George. And for that, we have to put Propter in the spotlight. Propter, why do you sound like a completely different person today?
So my kid, my 6th grader, had a robotics competition yesterday, which I accompanied him to, and I helped coach the robotics team because I'm that kind of nerd. And that meant that I was trying to squire a squad of 6th graders through a public charter high school using mostly my voice for most of yesterday.
How many 6th graders are we talking here? Are we talking like 3 or like 15?
Well, we're talking like 9.
That's a lot.
Well, so we had 9 6th graders on the junior team. We had another 6 kids on the senior team, and there were like 20 teams. So this was a pretty well populated Lego robotics competition. And anyway, so the practical upshot is that I am the gravelly monster you hear before you.
He was saying in the chat, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to talk. I'll be there, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to talk. But instead, we have this magnificent. Before the show, we were talking about getting a voice changer, so he always sounds like this. Let us know.
It takes a lot to keep our boy Propter away from a microphone when given the chance.
Hey, he hasn't had to explain anything today except for that.
That's true.
Give us a sec.
He comes in most weeks sounding like a Scott Stapp, and today he sounds like Kurt Cobain. We love it, don't we, folks?
I'll take it. I'll take the upgrade.
Much better.
So yeah, robotics competition, was that a 2 thumbs up experience worth losing or graveling your voice over, or what do we think? Would we do this again next year?
It's pretty cool. So there's a bunch of different robotics leagues that do these kinds of things, but generally the theme is you need to walk a robot through a bunch of tasks on a table. This one is really focused on process. So the kids have to kind of present and defend what they did to produce the robot, talk about sort of the engineering process they went through of thinking through the problems, redesigning the robot. And you get to watch these kids, interact with each other and all the various kind of work dramas in miniature that as adults you're familiar with in different contexts. You sort of get to see play out, but you get to see that happen through the eyes of a child. And That's really gratifying. Kids are good at this. They're actually pretty good at working through problems with each other and not taking things overly personally. Like, I saw people do a better job of responding to new ideas and correction as not ego threat in that context than I do in a lot of other contexts. So that was really cool. My kid goes to a DC public school, and we've got the freaking Rainbow Coalition out there, right? Like this is an extremely gender diverse, racial diverse team. And I think that's cool that we're putting that out as a thing. It's interesting because that isn't necessarily the rule for a lot of the teams at these competitions. Like, you get, at least in DC, you get some things that are pretty clearly family affairs that are driven by somebody who is immersed in engineering. Those teams are great too, but it's a different vibe than the American urban public school education experience, where you're throwing everybody together and kind of seeing what happens.
I love it. Growing up where I did, it was very hard to have my town was very good about socioeconomic diversity. Everyone went to public school, so you got the full slice of what was available. It was a small town in the mountains, so like, you just didn't get a lot of diversity beyond the socioeconomic diversity that exists everywhere in North America. And so the big exposure to folks of different races and creeds for me when I was a young person was playing football when I arrived in college. And that experience, I mean, football is obviously not the same endeavor as robotics competition, but any sort of team building where it's like, if you can show up and make it through, you're in, is going to expose you to people of just different people. And that's wonderful. And it's always good to cultivate that in whatever you're doing as an adult too, because so often it falls off. Like, we get into our patterns. We see the people we see regularly, whether they're our neighbors, and who your neighbors are is largely dictated by race and income in this country. Whether it's, the activities you enjoy, which are probably also filtered that way. Like, it's good to get outside of that comfort zone as best you can. And, that's awesome that you were able to help shepherd some young people along in that process.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. It's also, I've written about this elsewhere, but I think it's good for the soul to not just compete, but to compete against people who are not like you and to lose. To recognize that there are other modalities, other skill sets that are not the same as your identity, but that are competitors. Like, we've talked about this a little bit with gender, talking about how, like, to some extent, my construction of, I guess, modern good model gender relations is that women are peers to men, not competing in a separate category in a lot of ways, that they're competitors at work, they're friends, they're peers, that masculinity doesn't need to stand in opposition to femininity in that way. And I think it's good to get rinsed once in a while by people who are not like you. That's good for the soul. So
definitely,
losing is fun.
I've been saying that for decades with you. Y'all need that. Y'all need to get rinsed by us.
Oh, I'm a full believer in that. Every time Duke loses, I say that's going to help us.
You say it a lot more with football than basketball most of the time, but I mean, hey, in this instance, we lost 5 times this year. We ended up ACC champions, so maybe there's something to it.
Yeah. Triumph over adversity, the Duke story.
Carolina beat Duke at home the year we won the national championship in 2001, when Carolina was at its worst ever, and we won the national championship. So I'm all for these. Right now, Googling when Florida State's beaten Duke, because I remember a few of those, and they probably also happened during its great seasons.
We've beaten y'all a lot. You guys have only beaten us once in football, but God bless him, Leonard Hamilton has retired. And he had an inexplicable ability to beat Duke in basketball.
Yeah, I remember a few of those.
None of us
even
have
the blind
understood.
squirrel get a nut sometime,
Well, now that they've gotten their college sports out of their system, I have to embarrass Propter again. Why are you talking about crows?
Yeah, we got to get corporate.
I don't even know what this is. It's just in it's just in the notes. It says crow video.
Okay, let's talk about truth for a minute here.
Not the social network, to be clear.
Social truth, not truth social. I'm getting yelled at right now on Blue Sky.
As you do.
As I do. And I'm not complaining. I think it's actually justified, and they might be right about this. Anyway, we'll talk through this in a minute. I said that I think that we need to figure out how to make peace with a mode of discourse around videos of some types, not of all types. I do believe in objective truth, where it doesn't matter if the story being told, if the video being shown is true or not. In this case, the prompt for this video is a video of a crow taking a frisbee to the top of a roof covered in snow, sledding down the roof on the frisbee, and then picking it up in its claws and flying away as it gets to the edge of the roof. The video is not real, as you might have inferred from the fact that I described it as a video of a crow sledding down a roof on a frisbee. But it looks real. It's AI generated. It's good work. It's plausible that it's real. Crows do things that are kind of like that. My feeling is that to enjoy or appreciate that video, or to, for that matter, interact with that video, you shouldn't necessarily have to go through the gate first of going, is this true? You shouldn't have to be on alert in that way for disinformation, for things that are as low stakes as a crow sledding video, in the same way that you need to have your shields up when you're interacting with like mass shooter news, as we all have in the past day.
You know that it could be true because you've all watched Adam Duritz in his entire career with the entire cast of Friends.
I have not, thank you.
I don't know what any of those words mean.
Yeah. Don't generation gap low tax on counting crows.
This is under 40 privilege here.
Did someone just say counting crows?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So I will actually take the other side of this, I think.
Oh, I will too, but you go first.
From Proctor. I agree that we shouldn't treat the crow video as the same thing as active disinformation around a mass shooting or some current event, etc. I agree it's a separate category. I am totally with you there. What I worry about is a pervasive and corrosive environment where people's preconceptions become their entire worldview. And this is already something that's happened in large part due to social media. But there is a series of embedded preconceptions around crows using tools, crows, what they're using that tool to do, why they would do that, how they would do that, whatever. That if you take to an extreme, and that's your view, right? Like that's your view of how the animal world works, that animals use tools just like humans and yada, yada, yada. You're going to come up with some very skewed perspectives on how nature exists, like how species exist, et cetera, that are not necessarily the end of the world, but certainly are an example of epistemic failure and a breakdown of shared knowledge in a way that is not great. Now, that's a relatively catastrophic reading of a lighthearted video about a crow using a frisbee to slide down a roof, for sure. I'm not going to lose any sleep over this, but I do think that we should be marveling at nature or at the things that happen in the world that actually happen. There's so much that is worth marveling at in the world without needing to use AI to generate stuff that didn't happen. To me, it's just deeply problematic and speaks to that epistemic failure that is really getting worse every year and is not exclusively because of AI, but definitely is being exacerbated by it.
Yeah, because I look at it two ways, and both of them are bad. But as our delightful listeners know, I am the local AI dork. I have a instance of Claude Code over here working on something as we podcast because I'm that kind of nerd. But one of the things that I talk about a lot when it comes to this stuff is to George's point, epistemology is now kind of everyone's job. It is becoming more and more the primary skill of knowledge work is not just knowing your topic, but knowing what parts of your topic are real. There's a problem in the large and a problem in the small with this that both taken together make me pretty happy that people are like, no, screw this. Is in the large, it becomes a license for people to dismiss true things, right? It's not just the concern about false negatives, right? People being like, this is real. even though it's not. It's the reverse, right? This is fake, even though it's real. And we're going to see more and more of that, right? Like more and more things that are actually real and actually true dismissed as just AI.
Sure.
Because it's plausible now. And this is why, from a technical perspective, one of the things that I keep an ear in on is content authenticity, right? Like, how can I prove that something comes out of a camera? But on the flip side, like, most people don't have that. So they're just going to be like, that's AI, right? Like, I have seen people try to dismiss, like, some of the stuff Donald Trump is doing as just AI, right? Like, his personal issues are not real. They can't be, because they're, on the other hand, they're seeing a bunch of AI images of him being strong and vibrant and all that nonsense that turns my stomach. On the other hand, though, like, going from the group side to the individual side, the concern that I see is very much around people broiling their brains on this stuff, because it serves to, kind of like what George was saying, it serves to reinforce your priors, right? You probably want to think something, you can find an AI video or content to buttress it. And the miracle of the internet is that you can find other people who are as crazy as you are. So, like, this is what we used to bemoan, right? Like, somebody might be a nut, but they have like 4 followers in the Tri-County area, and now they just all go online and they go, oh yeah, no, birds aren't real. And now suddenly we have tens of thousands of people who are just like there, So yeah, it's complicated, because we run into a lot of these issues just in day to day, right? In my job, I see people insist on citing things that are not true about our own company because an AI told them, right? And it's like the longer that we don't push back against that, I think the more it entrenches. I also am not losing sleep over a crow doing this, because crows are weird, evil little bastards. But like, yeah, I do think that this is one of the few healthy places for the blue sky lecturing complex.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Listen, as soon as I heard George say crows and tools, I remember they're called a murder of crows for a reason.
Oh,
but at the same time, sure, if we're going to exalt nature, we also must remember that robots are evil and want to kill all of our grandparents by surviving on their medicine, if you've ever seen the Old Glory insurance policy video. And
that's right.
I'm of the mind.
Oh, that is
I'm of the mind that there are only a select subset of good robots in this world ever. And that's Good Robots Bill and Ted. It's Wall-E. There's
C3PO,
but he's not in this world. He's like in space.
That we've been exposed to in this world. Paulie's girlfriend robot from Rocky 4 or 3, Rocky 4, and Daft Punk, and that's it. So
there are actually people behind the masks, right?
No.
This is short circuit.
No. Johnny Five. Johnny Five is part of that list. Johnny Five is part of that list. Thank you, Lotax. So beyond that, like, I do not welcome our robot overlords, and everything you were saying about people getting confused about AI and what it represents for, and how it can feed into the misinformation machine. Those are the robots eating grandma's medicine, looking to destroy an entire generation of people who we know and love.
Yeah, I too am on Facebook.
Okay, we need to address. Okay, so Mike sent a link in the chat of a letter to the Duke Chronicle,
student newspaper at Duke.
Letters: unholy obsession with counting crows must end.
What year was this? What year was this? Okay, and now we're 2025. We're still talking about Counting Crows.
Okay, but this was 2003. They were still going gold at that point, and it was before Adam Duritz crawled all the way up his own ass.
But he'd always been.
This is actually an amazing letter.
We're going to read it in full now. Letters. Unholy Obsession with Counting Crows Must End by Mike Sachs, Trinity 04, April 11th, 2003. I believe I am not only speaking for myself and Duke's entire rock fan contingent, but also for any self-respecting music listener when I say that the unholy obsession with Counting Crows playing at Duke has to stop. As a member of campus council for the past 2 years, I have heard this rusty old band's name dropped as a potential headlining act for last day of classes, which is always a big concert that they do for the undergrads, as well as this year's ill-fated attempt for a Cameron concert, and the lingering public interest in Counting Crows confounds me. Besides the several obsessed fans on campus whom I urge to quickly reform their ways, who else knows any other song by this band besides their early 90s hit, Mr. Jones? I'm just going to go on a parenthetical here.
I knew other ones too, but it doesn't matter because we're talking to the general public who did not know more than Mr. Jones.
It doesn't help the argument.
They know A Long December. They know Rain King.
I don't know either of those songs.
You do.
I know Mr. Jones, though. You better believe I know Mr. Jones. We burned through CDs listening to that in the mid-2000s.
You know A Long December. If you heard it, you would immediately know it. And you know Rain King.
And you know Round Here. I mean...
And you know Round
Don't front here, man.
Do you really know it if you don't know that you know it?
I will say, I may recognize those songs where they played for me, but I have no idea what songs you're talking about as we sit here with those titles. In any event, I shall finish the letter.
All right, you
do not see my metal minions and I lobbying to bring Slayer to campus to kill John Mayer with sonic brutality because I understand that death metal is not relevant for wholesale consumption at our university. Appreciate that. Additionally, and perhaps more closely related, I understand that we all yearn for the old Duke, but you don't hear anyone pandering for Collective Soul or Fishbone. Both played Duke in their heyday because their days are over no matter how much I or anyone else might enjoy their music. Although the masses can never be entirely pleased, the union need not rehash some boring, whiny, then modern rock to satiate a few fans while the rest of us are subject to a merely palatable, overpaid product. If we want relics, we might as well bargain hard for ones whose music is well known to all and can be heard in frat sections, shooters, invites, hard rock shows, and hip-hop samples. Yes, my Blue Devils, I am talking about AC/DC.
Send them to Congress. I don't need this.
Yeah. If you live in Mike's district, this letter alone should be all the reason you need to vote for this man in the primary. I don't care about anything else you say.
I wrote all sorts of gonzo stuff in my day, and that's my most proud.
That's real good.
Yep.
Oh.
Well done, Mike. Well done to all the normal men this week. Thanks for listening in. If you could give the show a rating or a review wherever you happen to listen to it, that would be great. Also, heads up for our New Year's episode, which won't be our next one, but the one after that, we are going to be doing a advice section. So basically mailbag, but asking for advice from the normal men. It will be up on Go Like Hell Machine's website at some point. We will post links, but I just wanted to get y'all marinating on that because we think it's going to be fun and we would like to hear what you're struggling with. So if you keep an eye out for that, submit your request for advice. Once again, thanks very much to Mike for joining us in Charlotte for the Normal Men. I'm George.
In DC, I'm Propter.
In outer Florida, I'm low tax speedrun enjoyer.
And in Boston, I'm Ed.
Stay normal, y'all.